Hello, welcome to another video. This is probably going to be a long one, and this is just in the background because it looks nice, and also this laptop overheats a little bit when it does stuff. That's the HP Stream 11, got another video on that, but I'm going to build a PC, and I've got this motherboard here and a tray of processors to choose from. And I think I should have all the bits I need to put together a system. Got some SSDs and some memory. Shout out to Tech Head Forums for sending me some RAM and other bits and pieces. This motherboard is from that case that was like a rack mount case, and put it on eBay. Nobody is interested, so nobody's interested in buying this motherboard, so I may as well make a PC from it. It's got a back plate, and it is raining. It's decided to rain right now, so you might hear rain in the background, you might not. This is our motherboard. We've got 4 DDR3 slots, and it's a Supermicro C7Q67. So it did have a 2nd gen processor in there. I think I'll probably stick a 2nd gen Intel in there. I think I've got a nice Intel processor, so let's have a look what I've got. It's not going to take 4th gen, of course, that's a different socket. I ended up buying some, can't remember what they were for, but they're 775. 3rd gen, we've got a i3 3220T, slightly low power, so that's an option. Got a 2nd gen, oh okay, i7 2600. I think this is going to be the best option. Should be 4 cores, I think. Yeah, I'm just going to go with that. I think any other option is going to be worse than that. And I'm going to test it all out outside of the case first, just to make sure I've got working parts, because it's easier to get access to all of this when it's outside of the case. I should have a heatsink somewhere, so I'll have a look for that next. Okay, I've got these 2 Intel coolers, slightly different model numbers, but they both have copper cores, which is what I'm interested in. They are a bit thin and small, but we'll see if they do the job. And one of them might have a bad fan, I'm not sure, so it's always useful having another one to try. And I've got a power supply, which is the Antec Earthwatts 380, which is 80 plus bronze. Should be plenty, and if we find a low power graphics card, then it should do the job just about, well, for a low power one anyway. This board's got 2 HDMI sockets on the back and VGA, so we should be able to try it without having to connect up a graphics card. Just going to grab some thermal paste. This is probably going to be one of the slower videos and hopefully relaxing to watch. That's probably too much cooling, not cooling, thermal paste, but shouldn't matter too much. Just double check this is the CPU, yep. Looks like we've got the right cooler. These things are awkward. can never remember which way round you're meant to twist them when you're trying to take them out or fit them. I've got arrows, but is that to undo them or is that to lock them in place? Yeah, I'm not a fan of these. I don't know anyone who's a fan of these Intel coolers. Let's undo them all. I think the arrow means undo. Then I should be able to click them down. Maybe not. This one doesn't want to go in. Okay. One last one to go. And then I should be able to twist and push to hold them in place. Yep. And then you find out the fan doesn't work properly. So we need to put some memory in. I've got a whole bunch of crucial memory. These are all 133 DDR3 4 gig sticks, so we should be able to set it up with 16 gigs of RAM, which is plenty for most things. And I think all this memory should work, so just going to go for it. If there are any problems, I can start troubleshooting. So I'm going to plug in the power cable from the power supply, put it the right way around, that'll definitely help. Then we need the CPU, which is this one. And let's start connecting up the video cable. It's useful having a system up and running that is already, that you know is working, so I know the monitor is working. I've got keyboard and mouse that I know are working, so I can just plug everything in. And then plug the power in. This is switched off. I'll switch it on and it's switched on automatically. This was in a system that probably was set up to be on at all times. I'm just waiting to see if anything appears on the screen. We've not got anything yet, so I might plug in the HDMI cable instead. I don't mean HDMI cable, I mean VGA cable. The motherboard does have a buzzer, so hopefully if there were any kind of issues it would beep at us. No VGA connection, that's unfortunate. Let's try with taking out some of the memory and just try one stick of RAM. Okay, so I've just got one stick of RAM in. I'm going to switch it on again. It's switched on. We've got some beeps and the system is alive. i7-2600. So this is 4 cores, 8 threads. That's really good. That's a good basis for a system. And I should probably connect up a SATA drive. I wonder why it didn't like the memory. I'm going to try and increase the memory and see what happens. Okay, so this is with 2 sticks of RAM and it's powering on. Let's try another stick of RAM. It's switch it on. Yep, that's powering on. Let's try the 4th stick of RAM. Switch it on. Nope. Doesn't like this last stick of RAM, that's a shame. Take this one out. Try some different RAM I've got. Switch it on. No, maybe it's this this 4th slot that it doesn't like. Okay, I'm going to try one of the other sticks of RAM in the 4th slot. See what happens. Nothing. I'm guessing this 4th RAM slot has gone bad on this board. So looks like we're limited to 3 sticks of RAM, which isn't the end of the world. It could be a 12 gig system instead of 16. Although now it's decided it's not powering on. Why is it doing that? Is it normal for i7 2nd gen systems to be fussy about the RAM? Let's just try with 2 sticks of RAM. Okay, this is odd. We're now getting a system that's not booting. Alright, I'll leave it off. Okay, I've cleared the CMOS. We've got 2 sticks of RAM in, and let's see what happens when we try and boot into Windows. I've got a drive that's already got Windows 10 installed. We've got the drive connected. I've almost completely run out of SATA cables. Let's see if it boots from this. I'm going to use switching on automatically, and is posting. And we're booting into Windows 10. Pretty sure this is Windows 10 on here. This was in a different system, so it's realizing that I should find the mouse. The Apple mouse with the shortest cable ever. I've got a desktop. Oh, it probably thinks I've got a second display because I've still got this HDMI cable plugged in. Let's unplug that. And there we have. We've also got core temp, which has started up immediately. So let's just run performance test. Well, it looks like it might even have the drivers for trying to right click on an Apple mouse. Device manager, it might even have the drivers for the display. Yeah, Intel HD. And task manager, we've got 8 gigs of RAM, and we've got an i7 2600 at 3.4 gigahertz, and that's 4 cores and 8 threads, and it does turbo. It's running at 3.57. So let's run Passmark, see how it copes, see what temperature it gets to with this little cooler, and we'll take it from there. You can now hopefully see the system as well as pass mark running, so I'll speed this up. So I'm not sure if you saw that, but it basically crashed during the test. I'm not sure if it was overheating or what was going on there. I will... Oh, it's crashed again. It's just switching itself off randomly. Let me switch this off and I'll plug the power cable into the watt meter things. Switching it on, it should come up here how much power it's using. Let's go into the BIOS, if it's going to switch on at all, that is. I suspect either there's a problem with the board or a problem with the processor. I think the processor should be good, but maybe this motherboard is not happy. Let's switch it off. It's using 50 watts, but we're not getting anything posted. I'll just have one stick of RAM in. Switch it on again. So this was going to be building a PC, but with a faulty system, there's not much point putting this into a PC case. Okay, we've got the system. I expect it's going to crash anytime now. Let's go to bench and stress the CPU. See if there's a temperature issue. Let's just stress the CPU. Temperatures currently at 75 degrees C. It's using 62 watts on the processor and it's using 95 watts at the wall. We've got one stick of memory in at the moment. And the temperature's up to 77. So it's still running relatively well at the moment. Still running at 3.5 gigahertz. Temperature is 81 maximum. It's a little yellow bit there when it gets to 81. I wonder if there's a problem with these memory slots. It seems okay at the moment with only one stick of RAM in there. So maybe I'll try a different stick of memory. Let's see. Let me just check what the memory is running at. So 666, which is 10700. Let me have a look. So I'm going to put in an 8 gig stick in that slot, 10600 RAM, and see if it works with this one stick of RAM. Because 8 gigabytes could make a usable system, 4 gigabytes much less so. Switch it back on. Okay, let's do the same thing again. I'll see if I can run this performance test. That finished successfully. It did skip the 3D mark because it doesn't have the capabilities, and we're not connected to the internet, but we'll rerun the CPU mark because that should be higher, and sometimes you get a better result when you run it separately. Okay, that was only slightly better. I'm going to try and put 2 sticks of RAM in because it kind of changes what is possible with the system. If we can only put 1 stick of RAM in, then we're kind of limited in what we can do. But if we can have 16 gigs of RAM in this system, that would make it a much more versatile system. You know, potentially we could put together a gaming system if it runs reliably with 2 8 gig sticks. I don't know why it's gone into the BIOS. But yeah, I've got 16 gigs of RAM. Here's the temperature, fan speed, voltages. So 12 volts, 5 volts, 3.3, and the battery as well. So that's looking okay. Let's see if we can boot into Windows successfully and run through that passmark test again. See, why has it just gone into the BIOS? Why has the keyboard stopped working? It doesn't seem to like the idea of having a second stick of RAM in the system. Let's try with just the 1. Yeah, I think maybe if we've only got 8 GB stick of RAM running in single channel mode, then a i7-2600 is a little bit overkill, because that processor could be the basis for a gaming system, whereas if it's only single channel, only 8 gigs RAM, I'd say it's more suited to being an office PC. So I'm going to try and put this 3rd gen i3-3220T in the system, and maybe we will make this into a little low power officey type machine rather than trying to go for a high power gaming system. The fact that we can't add more than one stick of RAM is the biggest issue, I think, for me. Because, you know, the moment you sort of give this away as a quad-core PC, potential i7, potential gaming system, someone's going to want to put a graphics card in here, and they're going to want to put more memory in, and then as soon as they put more memory in, the system's going to stop working. So yeah, it's not ideal, but it'd be good to be able to give away a working system. Okay, I've put the i3-3220T chip in here. Let's see if it posts. It should, in theory, accept a 3rd gen Intel CPU, but then again, it might not. It might decide it doesn't want to. Okay, it's done it. I think it's going into the BIOS. There's the i3-3220T. I think it's going to the BIOS whenever something changes, perhaps. Yeah, let's just make this into a office system. Hardware health, CPU temperature low. Boot options. Why are there no boot options? This is odd. It's not seeing the SATA drive. That's really, really odd. Let's switch it off. Unplug the SATA cable. Plug it back in. Switch it on. And then switch it on. And again. We're not getting the SATA drive. Let's try a different socket. Let's try a different power connector. This is definitely causing me some headaches. I'm going to try and boot from USB. Okay, we've got Ventoy booting. Let's go for Cashios. Just why not? I think it's got some useful tools. Copying a root FS image to RAM. and 110 MIB per second. Plasma made by KDE. Okay, we're in this. Let's have a look at file browser. Can we see the other drive? Don't think we can. What's this? Oh, that's this thing. So this has got OCCT, so we can sort of test the system stability. But it's worrying that it's not seeing the SATA drive. Yeah. So I'm just going to run this CPU and RAM tester. The i3-3220T is a dual core processor with 4 threads, so it's probably about half the performance of the i7-2600, probably a little bit more, but you know, it should provide a reasonable level of performance for, you know, general office use, I guess, word processing, web browsing, things like that. But we'll just run this, see how it goes, and then when this is done, see if I can get the SATA drive working again. Without a SATA drive, we don't really have much of a system. While that is running, there's still no errors detected yet, and the temperature seems good at 42 degrees C. I'm going to try and clean up this case, as hopefully it will fit in here, and hopefully we get a system that works. This is sticky stuff remover. Seems pretty good at removing stickers and other things. And I've also got some alcohol spray for this permanent marker. And we've got another thing to try and remove. Some Lego should work. Quite firm, which means I can sort of push against the sticky glue to get this off. This looks like a relatively nice Zalman case. It's got a top vent cover. It's got 2 fans in the front here, and then another one here and one at the back, but 2 of them are using the Molex power connectors, so aren't speed controlled, so I might move those around so that there's one in the front and there's one in the back, so that it's controlled by the motherboard, and then hopefully it'll be nice and quiet. I don't think this system really needs 4 fans. Need something to get under that. This may work, may not. Oh yeah, slightly scratched the case a little bit, unfortunately. So I'm using this and a cloth, and it seems to be removing the marker pen. Okay, I think that will do for now. It's barely visible, any of the marks, and we can look at moving some of the fans around perhaps, but also I should probably check that the motherboard will fit correctly in here. I might need to move these around a little bit. And that's still running, 27 minutes, no problem so far. Okay, this has gone on for half an hour. The temperature's stable, the system's still running. I need to make sure I can get it to boot from an SSD, otherwise we don't have a working system. So let's stop this and shut this down and see if we can get it to boot from an SSD drive. It likes making odd beepy noises, doesn't it? Oh, I've still got the USB drive plugged in, haven't I? Need to unplug that. Okay, so it's gone into the BIOS. Let me try a different SATA drive. So that's a bit odd. Why doesn't it like this drive anymore? I'm just gonna switch this off. I don't want it to kill SSD drives. That wouldn't be much fun. So I'll just switch this off. Swap in a different drive. See if this one works. I think there's nothing on this drive. I'm not entirely sure. Okay, there's something on this drive. Looks like Windows 11. Okay, this is always fun. Okay. Let me just check that this drive still works using a SATA USB adapter. The dynamic lighting ready device detected. What is it talking about? Dynamic lighting. I have no idea what it's talking about. So this SATA drive does work. It's just detected it. Yeah. And we've got this one with Windows 11 on. I don't remember. Oh yeah, I remember now. This was when I was running Windows 11 on a CRT. Check out my other videos. Temperature looks much better. We might have a system that we can start putting in a case. Okay, I think I'm going to start putting it in a case and hopefully it will still work. So cue a time lapse and we'll come back if something interesting happens. So these are the fans that I don't want. I've got the motherboard in. It's quite a time consuming process. Seems odd that there are 3 different fans with this kind of connection. But where does the SATA drive go? I'm guessing here. But why is there only one tray? Is there only one SATA tray? Or yeah, in this case maybe it's missing some thing here that's meant to be for extra drives. It was free, and then is the power cable for the motherboard supposed to go through these tiny little gaps? Let's try putting this in and seeing what happens. Maybe the cables will all reach and everything will be fine. Took quite a while for me to find all of the different screws for them holding the motherboard in, because this case didn't come with them. It was basically got it free off one of the free websites, Freegal or FreeCycle, and I've just got a drawer of screws that I can use to put in here, but it means it takes longer to find the right screws. So I'm just going to put one in for now, because if the cables don't reach, then I might need to switch to a different power supply. Okay, where abouts do I need to put the motherboard power? So right here, where all these other cables are in the way. One of those has fallen off. So it's a nice idea having all your cables neatly arranged, but once you get too many cables, you've then got a bit of an issue where all the cables are in the way. Okay, so CPU, will it reach? Goes up to this one here, and it looks like it will reach. So we've got a green motherboard and we've got a green power supply. These are the Zalman fans, and then there's, not sure what these ones are. Now this is a Zalman on the back, and this is something else. So next is the motherboard connector. Luckily this seems quite long, and I should be able to feed it through here. Oh. Yeah, considering I did all that complaining, it's actually quite straightforward. Except here, will that work? Or will it not? Okay, it looks like it's going to work. Quite a lot of bending going on. Maybe that's a good amount of cable. This motherboard doesn't have USB 3 as far as I'm aware. I've plugged in one of the fans, and shall we try it and see if it works? I haven't got the SATA connected. I can go through there. Go for that one. And yeah, where's the power cable gone? Okay, so it's switched off. I need to connect the video cable. Okay, I'm going to switch it on at the back. Then I'm going to press the power button. It's switched on. The fan has, CPU fan is spinning. We've gone into the BIOS because I don't have the SATA connected. And connected one of the fans here, but none of them are spinning. Maybe this, I'm just guessing here, maybe this controls the speed, but they actually get the power from that big collection of Molex cables. So let's plug that in. Oh, one of them is spinning. Okay, so this top one is spinning. So I'm guessing that is the one that is connected to this, and the rest must be using the Molex connectors. Let's connect them up and see if they're far too loud or what the situation is. Oh wow, they light up. Oh, that's a shame. I mean, it's great. They're quite loud. Oh, that's such a shame that this motherboard doesn't support more RAM. That changes the whole kind of feel of this system, doesn't it? As soon as you've got RGB lights, it's a gaming PC. Okay, let's just carry on for now. So yeah, this little tray is for the SSD drive. So I'll find some screws for this. Okay, that is now fitted to the back. Shall we see if it still works and still boots into Windows? So they light up even though the system's not on. I press the power button and they start spinning. Okay, it's rebooting. And we're booting into Windows 11. Not got any keyboard or mouse plugged in at the moment. Might need to use the USB sockets at the back. But it is working. What would you do with this system? The fans are a little bit loud, I suppose. They're not, they don't look controllable. There doesn't seem to be any kind of, unless this button, no, that'll be a reset button. There doesn't seem to be, whoops, any kind of control over the fans. They're pretty cool that they light up. That's nice, but the case does actually have a side window with stickers. It's plastic, so that's quite good. It means it's less likely to break. And I do have all the little screws somewhere to hold it in. But yeah, I guess it's like a little office PC really. 8 gigs of RAM, not in dual channel. Power supply that might cope with a low power graphics card. But what would you do with this? Would you make it into a gaming PC? Maybe put the i7 2600 back in? Or leave it as it is? It's quite a nice case. Cleaned up okay. A little bit flimsy, I suppose, but it's got, you know, this grill means there should be good airflow. And it was free, so can't really complain. I think we might end the video there. If you got this far, thank you for watching. Hope you like these longer videos and a little bit of variety, doing some more hardware related things, but we seem to have a working system at the moment. Might give it another try with some more memory. It'd be really nice if I could get it up to 16 gig and running in dual channel, but if not, then seems okay in its current state. I've put another 8GB stick of RAM in there and it's working. So I don't know whether it's the CPU that was in there that was a problem, the i7-2600, if it was trying to draw too much power. I don't know, but yeah, 16 gig in dual channel is gonna be a good thing, and we have a working system. So we got there in the end. I think I'll probably leave it as it is at the moment with this 3rd gen CPU. You'll be able to see the CPU mark very shortly. I think this will make a reasonable little system, and yeah, I think I'll just leave it as it is. These fans look cool, but I prefer fans that are controllable, you know, the speed is controllable. So yeah, here is the final pass mark, and it doesn't have a graphics card built in it. I don't have the graphics drivers installed, which is why the 2D and 3D mark didn't run properly, but the CPU mark is there, and that's what you'd expect from this processor. So I guess that'll do for now, and I'll put the side back on after I've cleaned it all and update all the drivers, and then we've got a working system. There's the CPU, there's the memory, 16 gigs DDR3, there's our SSD, and CPU-Z is here. Thanks for watching, bye.